Oh, man. So we are continuing through a series called The Waiting and the Arrival. We are actually into the arrival. And as we've been going through this series, we're talking about thousands of years, hundreds of prophecies, one baby. For those of you that don't know, Jesus Christ was the most prophesied event in the history of all history. And all of those prophecies, all those things came true in the life of one human being in all of history. His name was Jesus. This week, as we continue through this series, in the arrival, we are talking about a prophecy called Rachel Weeps. Say, Rachel Weeps. We're going to be getting into that here in just a second. Before we do, though, guys, it's been a while since I've been able to be over here hanging out with you and just like goofing around, sharing the word, and hanging out with Isaac and putting our feet up on the chairs and throwing stuff at Pastor Dylan. And it's been a long time. I've missed you guys. In case you didn't know, thank you for that. If you do that again, though, I'm going to put my foot in your mouth, and I don't think you're going to want that. That would be real sad. Okay, so we been taking over some stuff here at the church. For those that don't know, we took over kids. We've been doing a whole lot of stuff across the street. In fact, we have this incredible next-gen team that includes myself and Pastor Becca. We oversee this whole team. It includes Pastor Dylan. It includes Pastor Jason. It includes Christian Lucas, our amazing worship leader. It includes Mr. David Richter, our kids leader, and Karia, his wife, our junior kids leader, just hanging out and having fun and doing all kinds of stuff, as well as all of our other team, our interns, our staff. You guys, we have been having so much fun. But one of the things we've been doing is, for those who don't know, every weekend we do kids videos. We actually have a lot of fun with them. And I thought you might want to see just at least the beginning of this one, because I think this is one of my favorites that we've ever done. So check this out real quick. This is what we do on Sundays.
Oh boy, Christmas is here. Christmas means a wish list, and I wish that one day I'll go to Disneyland very soon. I wish that the Dallas Cowboys will win the Super Bowl. I wish that my house will be full of pizza and candy. Please, 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 please. I wish. Whoa. Oh, hey. Who are you? Some wishes.
We're doing wishes!
Who are you?
Wishes!
For Christmas?
Who are you? Who?
It's actually me. It's Pastor Steve.
Oh. What?
I was trying to.
Where did you get this?
I was trying to help you out. You seemed like you wanted some wishes. I was just wanting to. That's awesome, right? That's like one of the best things. If you want to see the rest of it, you can check it out on our YouTube page, GV Next Gen YouTube page. We actually were talking about the difference between a hope and a wish, right? And how some people mix up the difference between a hope and a wish. But that video, first of all, I want to say this. If you guys are looking for a place to serve, because we need students, and you want to help out in kids' church ever, come and talk to me, because we want to put you to work, because it's so much fun to hang out in kids' church. Plus, you get to be in awesome videos like that. You do not have to cross-dress. That's just my thing. That came out wrong. So when they showed this video in kids' church, they asked the kids, they're like, did you guys know that was Pastor Steve? And this one little kid raised their hand and was like, I knew it was Pastor Steve because of his big muscles. It's true. It's true. It's hard for me to hide because of my big muscles everywhere I go. So just be careful walking by. Isaac, careful. What? We are continuing through the waiting and arrival. We are in the arrival, and I told you this week we're going to hear the prophecy of Rachel weeps. And I know that sounds weird, but here's where it comes from. Jeremiah chapter 31, all the way back in the Old Testament. This is one of the prophets, and Jeremiah was called the weeping prophet. Say the weeping prophet. He was called the weeping prophet because everything he prophesied was sad, and he was always crying, and he was always like, but I mean, unfortunately, most of what he prophesied actually did come true in the destruction of Jerusalem and the exile of the people and so on and so forth. But this is what he says in Jeremiah 31:15, because some of the stuff he prophesied was for the immediate, some of it was for the distant future, and some of it was for a long way off. And one of the things for the distant future came from 31:15. This is what it says in Jeremiah. This is what the Lord says. A cry was heard in Ramah, deep anguish and bitter weeping. Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted, for her children are gone. Ramah, for those that don't know, was a region in Israel. And the question is, well, why was she weeping? What was happening? And here's where we're going to get into the word. This is a prophecy, again, comes back from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. But we're going into Jesus' birth. Matthew chapter 2. Who has their Bible? If you have it, I want to see it. Hold it up in the air. Wave it at me. Wave it at me. Say a word. If it's a phone, that's cool, just because that's a Bible too. You got your Bible on there? I use my Bible for my phone for my Bible all the time. Matthew chapter 2, beginning verse 1, says this. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose. We have come to worship him. We saw in that video, the star suddenly appeared and was like, boom, follow me. But what actually happened was these guys these guys just didn't see it like pop in the sky one day and decide to follow it. Like, these were guys who were studied, they were learned, they were the equivalent of like solar physicists. The dudes had like more education than probably most of us will get in our entire lifetimes. They knew the sky, they knew the stars, they knew the solar system, and they watched it constantly. And all of a sudden one day, this incredible just cosmic event took place where they saw such a bright, shining star that had never been there before that it threw them off. And they thought, okay, well, it's got to be like a comet or something. So let's just watch this for a few days. And it wasn't. And it wasn't moving like a comet or like a meteor or anything else like that. It was a true star in the sky that was just shining down. And they thought, okay, this is weird. And they watched it actually for months and months and months, realizing that it wasn't moving. So these guys decide one day, we got to see what's happening, because it feels like this is bigger than just a star that appeared in the sky one day, and it feels like it's literally pointing to something. So they decide to take a journey of over 800 miles. Anybody ever gone on an 800-mile journey? Okay, 800 miles in an airplane, that's not so bad, right? That's like maybe a 2-3 hour flight. 800 miles in a car, that's a little rough. Anybody on the bus ride to youth convention? That's about a 690-mile drive right there, okay? So that's not quite 800 miles. That's a little bit tough. 800-mile walk or riding on a camel. Anybody ever ridden a camel? I have ridden a camel. It is a weird thing. I'm going to be totally honest. Because when you're on a camel, and I'm going to use a word that might make you giggle, so don't let it happen, because your immature brain is going to take you somewhere that's not where it meant to go. When you're on a camel, you have to place yourself either in front of the hump, behind the hump, or in between two humps. Stop it. Just stop it. Stop it right now. I saw it. I heard it. My mind went there too. It's okay. And when you do that, it's very uncomfortable, because if you're in front, you're leaning forward like this, right? So you're constantly riding like this. When you're behind, you're like this. When you're on top of the hump, it's real weird, because then you're like leaning like this. And then when you're in between the two humps, because you got a 2-hump camel, it just feels really weird, because it's like a big squishy bag of water, because that's what those things are. They're actually like water bags. That's how camels are able to go so far in the desert. It's like a giant like canteen on your back. Okay? So imagine riding that for 800 miles. Be real uncomfortable. Okay? So they watch this for months. They get on their camels. They take this journey. This is not a short journey. This is a long journey. They get there, and they don't know where to go at this point because they're like, well, it looks like it's over there, kind of over there. Let's go to the king of this region, see if he has anything to say. By the way, how many wise men were there? Anybody know? Ooh. You guys are too smart. So some people say 3, and it's because there were 3 gifts, and because there's an old song that says, "We 3 kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we've traversed afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star." Oh. Wrong song, stop it. But yes, there were very likely more than 3. In fact, a lot of estimates say there could have been as many as 20 to 25 of these guys, because this was a group of scientists, a group of wise men who gathered together, and they were following this star, right? So they go to the king. It says this: King Herod was deeply disturbed in verse 3 when he heard their news, as was everyone else in Jerusalem. They're like, what the heck are they talking about? He calls a meeting of the leading priests, the teachers of the religious law, and he asks, where's the Messiah supposed to be born? Verse 5, in Bethlehem in Judea, they said, for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, the land of Judea, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you, who will be the shepherd for my people, Israel. Now, where does that come from, right? We're talking about prophecies. We're talking about how here's this baby, thousands of years, hundreds of prophecies, one baby, right? It actually comes from another prophet, a guy named Micah, who said this, but you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, are only a small village among the people of Judah, yet the ruler of Israel, whose origins are of distant past, will come from you on my behalf. In 2 Samuel 5, verse 2, it says this, the Lord told you, you will be the shepherd of my people Israel. You will be Israel's leader. And so here are these prophecies coming true, these snippets throughout the Word of God, these snippets throughout hundreds and hundreds of years of history that are beginning to come true in the life of this one tiny baby. Verse 7, Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. So remember I told you, these guys, they were in their distant lands. A lot of people think it could have been India, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, somewhere in that region. These guys were watching the skies. All of a sudden, a star appears. They watch it for months. They realize this thing is not shifting. It's not changing. It's not going away. They follow to where the star is leading. So months go by. Then months go by because it takes a long time to go on a journey of 800 miles. In fact, on a really good day, you would go about 20 miles a day. Okay? That's a really good day. Not quite over a year, but it's still a long journey. 8. What's 800 divided by 20? 40. So if they could average 20 miles a day, which would really be pushing their camels, it took at least a month. Okay, so several months have gone by, right? It's okay. Shh. It's all right. Okay, so several months have gone by at least, not only from the time the star first appeared, but now this journey, which if they were blazing, and blazing at that time was 20 miles a day. Could you imagine being like, bro, we were blazing today. We hit 20 miles. Woo. Anybody ever play Oregon Trail? What happens when you push your family 20 miles a day? You die of dysentery. That's exactly it. Or somebody breaks a bone, or little Johnny gets lost in the woods and you have to shoot him for food. Johnny's your least favorite. That's how you lose him in the woods. Lost in the woods. Okay, no. So he finds out the time that the star first appeared, which we know was at least months, minimum of months, if not possibly up to 2 years that have gone by since the very first appearance of this star. And the wise men watched it and then took their journey and came to where they are. He says this in verse 8. He told them, go to Bethlehem, search carefully for the child. When you find him, I want you to come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too. After this interview with the wise men, they went their way, and the star they had seen in the east then guided them to Bethlehem. Now, they had seen the star in the east, right? So they had followed the star. Now they were in Jerusalem. Now they turned around and came back because they came from the east. Okay, so I want you to imagine a map, right? They came from the east, and they came this way to Jerusalem. All of a sudden now the star has shifted because now they go back, and they go back towards the direction they came from, okay? So they came from the east to west, from east to west. That's like going from here to California, okay? So you go from here to Los Angeles, and you're like, oh, we gotta talk to somebody important here to find out what's happening. But then you realize, oh no, we have to go back to San Bernardino. And that's basically what happens. They had to go back several miles east, and they realized this is where it's actually at, in Bethlehem. So they go to Bethlehem. It says this. After this, they went their way. The star guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy because they realized this is it. It's like this is what we've been following for months. This is what we've been tracking. This is what we've been watching. All of a sudden now it makes sense. It's directly overhead. We see what's happening. They entered the house and they saw the child with his mother Mary. Now hold on. In verse 11, they entered what? Did they enter a stable? So wait a minute. This is like ruining my entire picture of the nativity scene. Because my nativity scene has like a cute little stable with cozy, warm straw and animals like looking all cute in adoration, and like shepherds who are like walking like this with their sheep following, baying cutely, right? And then on the other side, you got the wise men coming at the exact same moment, holding their gifts. And they're walking with their crowns and the camels, right? And they're looking all regal and awesome. And everybody's converging on the spot at the same moment in time. It didn't actually happen that way. Christmas is ruined. Christmas is awful. Forget Christmas. I've been lied to my whole life. So what did I say? I said the star appeared, right? And they watched it for how long? Minimum of months. Then they took their journey, which was at least a month and a half, if not much, much longer. Potentially up to 2 years now have gone by. Of course they're going to be in a house. They didn't stay in a stable forever. All right? The baby Jesus was in the stable probably like maybe a couple of nights till they got the census done, and then they were out. Because how long do you want to stay in a stable with stinky, poopy animals? Not long at all. You're there as long as you are legally bound to be in that place to get your legal requirement done. It's like when you have to pay taxes. Anybody had to pay taxes yet? Isn't that the worst feeling in the world? How did you feel the first paycheck you ever got in your entire life, and you thought to yourself, oh, I'm so excited. I make $8.25 an hour. Is that how much you make? How much do you make? About $8.25, right? I make $8.25 an hour. I worked 10 hours this week for my first week of employment. I'm going to make $82.50. This is going to be the best day ever. $82.50 of my very own money that I earned myself. And you get that paycheck and you rip open the envelope and you're like, yeah, what the hell? And all of a sudden, that $82.50 has gone down to $67.95. And you're like, what is happening? It's because legal requirement, you have to pay taxes, right? And this is what the census was all about. It was all about taxation. They had to go and pay their taxes. So they weren't going to stay there any longer than necessary. They did not stay in that stable for a long time. They were there a very short time. It just so happened that it was bad timing that the baby was born in that place at that time. Okay. So, continue on. They entered the house. They saw the child with his mother Mary. They bowed down and worshiped him. They opened their treasure chest, gave him gifts of, anybody know what the gifts were? Gold and Frankenstein and myrrh. That's right. Because it was all just very valuable items. And so, like, let's be honest. What is your favorite gift to receive? Cash, right? So if all your relatives gathered together and we were to write a story about you receiving gifts of cash, we would say all of your relatives gathered together and gave you gifts of cash, right? So gifts of cash and perfume and resin is what it was, and not like bong resin. Knock it off, you guys. I know it's legal. Stop it, okay? Stop it. No. Knock it off. So, but for real, gold, frankincense, myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh, I've actually seen real frankincense and myrrh. It's kind of weird stuff. You ever seen when like pine tree sap dries and it gets all like white and crusty and weird looking? That's what like frankincense and myrrh actually looks like. It's like dry, crusty sap, and you grind it up and mix it with stuff and make it into like incense, and then you light it on fire and burn it and smell the smoke. Incense was real big back then, okay? It was a big deal. Not like, you know, your weird hippie cousin that like burns incense in his van in the backyard. That's weird. Okay, no, but but for real, this stuff was like actually extremely valuable. Like they'd be able to take it and sell it, trade it for like valuables, trade it for essential needs. So when it says the gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh, it means that like if there was like 3 of these guys, they each gave one of each. If it was like 10 of these guys, like a couple of them gave a bag of gold, a couple of them gave like a couple little satchels of frankincense, a couple of them gave little boxes of myrrh, right? And so they gave these gifts now to the family. And it says this, when it was time to leave, they returned to their country by another route. Say, by another route. For God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. Yes. In verse 13, after the wise men were gone, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, run to Egypt with the child and his mother, the angel said. Stay there until I tell you to return, because Herod is going to search for the child and kill him. That night, Joseph took his family and left for Egypt with the child, Mary his mother, and they stayed there until Herod's death. This fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet. I called my son out of Egypt. Another prophecy right there. Another prophecy right there. Coming out of the Old Testament. I called my son out of Egypt. Now, this is an expensive trip. This is now another several hundred miles going west from where they are, okay? So, quick question. How do you think they funded this trip? Gold, frankincense, myrrh. See, God kind of knows what he's doing sometimes. He's got real good timing when it comes to just the way he does things. And so he knew that this king was going to be coming after Jesus. He knew that something needed to happen. So he sent these guys to give the gifts, to send them to a foreign country that they could live in probably relative comfort for the few years that they were there, having fled from this crazy king. Now, this is where it gets weird. Herod was furious, it says, when he realized the wise men had outwitted him. He then sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's reports of the star's first appearance. Herod's brutal action fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah, a cry heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted, for they are dead. For those that don't know, Rachel was the wife of one of the patriarchs. There was Abraham, there was Isaac, there was Jacob. She was Isaac's wife. And so this picture here is the picture of like great-grandmother weeping over the loss of her children, because these children were brutally murdered. Now, quick question. How many babies do you think were killed here in this slaughter? 100,000, 500, 5,000. You're going to be really disappointed, okay? At this time in history, Bethlehem was like a really small town. Like there was maybe a few hundred people that lived there. And in this point in history, less than 20. Less than 20. Now, does that lessen the absolute depravity of what he did there? No, but like in our minds, right, we want to Hollywoodize it, right? Like we picture all of Pahrump, and we're like, oh, they killed all the babies in Pahrump. There's thousands of babies now being bashed against the sides of the buildings, their heads smashed and crushed, slaughtered and ripped and torn and blood and... Sorry, I watch violent movies sometimes. Herod was furious when he realized that wise men had outwitted him. Sent soldiers to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under. Based on the wise men's reports, Herod's brutal action fulfilled what the prophet spoke in Jeremiah, a cry heard in Ramah, weeping and mourning, Rachel weeping for her children. Verse 19. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared again in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. Get up, he said. Take the child and his mother back to the land of Israel, because those who were trying to kill the child are dead. So Joseph got up, returned to the land of Israel with Jesus and his mother. So that's our story. That's pretty cool, right? And I just want to give you guys a couple of quick things to remember, things to learn, things to hold on to from this story of the wise men, from the weeping of Rachel. And here's this. Just like those wise men 2,000 years ago, for us now, it's all about the light. Say it's all about the light. I love lights at Christmas. Anybody else like lights at Christmas? Christmas lights are literally one of my favorite things. That's why we love to put Christmas lights up in here. We put Christmas lights on trees. If you want to see the best decorated Christmas house in town, you should come to my house right now because it is legit. I have lights on the roof and lights on the trees and lights in the yard, and I have a nativity, and there are actually wise men at the stable. So it's like a kind of wrongly depicted nativity, but it's still really cool, and it's lit up, and it's really neat. So you should come to my house. But it's all about lights, right? But more than lights of Christmas, more than just these glowing electric bulbs, it's light. Isaiah chapter 9 says this. This is another one of the prophecies of Jesus. It says, the people who walk in darkness will see a great light. This is a prophecy about the coming of Jesus. For those who live in the land of deep darkness, a light will shine. Skip down to verse 6 there. It says, for a child is born to us, a son is given to us. The government will be on his shoulders. He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. His government and his peace will never end. He will rule with fairness and justice from the throne of his ancestor David for all of eternity. The passionate commitment of the Lord of heaven's armies will make this happen. In John chapter 8, we hear the fulfillment of this prophecy when Jesus speaks to the people that are gathered around him, and he says, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness because you will have the light that leads to life. It's all about the light. All right, so just like those wise men 2,000 years ago, what do we got to do now? Well, first, seek the light. Say, seek the light. Seek the light. When you see the light, you got to seek the light. It says this, Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea in the reign of King Herod. About that time, wise men from the east arrived in Jerusalem asking, where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose. We came to worship him. Seek the light. Here's the deal. You're going to see a picture of Jesus in the world around you. Maybe you'll see it in someone like Pastor Dylan. Maybe you'll see it in someone like Pastor Jason. Maybe you'll see it in one of these awesome, amazing students who are up here leading worship. Maybe you'll see it in someone else. Maybe you'll see it as you're reading the Bible yourself and trying to discover who God is. Maybe you'll see it in the most unexpected of places, but you'll see a glimpse of the light. And here's the thing. When you see that glimpse of the light, you cannot shut it off. You cannot turn away. You got to seek that light. And from there, you got to follow the light. Say, follow the light. In verse 9 of that chapter, it said, after the interview with the wise men, they went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother, bowed down, worshipped him, opened treasure chests, and gave him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. Here's the deal. In your life now, Jesus says, I am the light. You don't have to walk in darkness, and you can follow the light, because just like the star went before them, Jesus goes before you. One of my favorite passages of Scripture comes from Hebrews chapter 12. It says, therefore now, in light of all these witnesses, throw off all the sin that entangles, everything that holds you back, everything that would chain you up and encumber you, everything that would hold you down, and run with perseverance this race marked out for you. Fix your eyes on Jesus, who is both writing and perfecting your story of faith. Follow where he leads. Because that light is shining. But too often it's too easy to ignore it. Pretend it's not there. So when you see the glimpse of it, you got to seek it. You got to follow it. And then when you follow it and come to where you find it, when you find that light, find what it is for you, find who he can be in your life, you got to protect that light. Say, protect that light. For these wise men, said when it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by what? Did they go the same way home? Where did they go? They different route. Because God warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. You are a steward of the light. You are a guardian of the light. You have the light within you. A light in you that you cannot contain, because light does not hold back. Light shines in the darkness. Look around this room. Why do we see in this room? Lights. Anybody ever been in a cave deep down underground in absolute darkness? Have you ever experienced absolute darkness? Absolute darkness is one of the most frightening things I have ever experienced in my life. I don't like the dark. Anybody else like the dark? I actually, as a kid, I remember laying in bed having moments of anxiety in the dark because I would see things. Anybody ever done that? Flip on the light real quick. You're like, oh, it wasn't a monster. It was just my bathrobe. Flip the light back off. Oh, it wasn't a monster. It was just my socks on the floor. And flip it back up, right? Absolute darkness is one of the most frightening things you will ever experience. If you've ever gone into a cave, I remember I went spelunking this one time. Spelunking is just a funny word that says you crawl through the mud in a cave. And our guide said, I want you to turn off your lamps right now. We had like the helmets with the lamps, like the miner helmets, right? Not minor as in like what you guys are, like under 18, like minor, like the guys that go underground. Okay, so we had like the miner helmets. He says, turn them off. We turned them off, and in that moment I experienced utter darkness. And it was tangible. And honestly, like I flipped off my lamp, it went pitch black. I couldn't see this. Like I was going like this. And honestly, I felt like a weight on my chest, and I was like, I started to freak out, started to hyperventilate a little bit. He goes, okay, turn your lights back on. I'm like, But here's the crazy thing about dark. Dark is not the opposite of light. It's merely the absence of light. And the tiniest little light shines in the darkness. That's why, like, you'll see movies where, like, someone will be in absolute darkness and they'll light a match. They'll be like, oh. And all of a sudden you can see everything around you. It's because that tiny little light lights up the way. You got to guard that light in you. Because when that light begins to ignite you, that light begins to take hold of you, you have to protect it, you have to guard it, you have to hold on to it, and don't let it go out. Because once that light has touched you, once that light has ignited you, the devil is going to do everything he can to put it out in you. He will come against you. He will discourage you. He will frustrate you. He will hurt you. He will use people that you love and people that you hate. He will use situations and circumstances. He will go every route that he can. And here's what he'll do best of all. He will make it look like it's not him. He will make it look like it's anything but him. But all of a sudden you'll begin to question, you'll begin to doubt, you'll begin to wonder, is this all true? Is this all real? Is this all even worth it anyway? Because you know what that devil wants to do? You ever sang that song, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Then there's that verse, won't let Satan it out. Why do we sing that? Because that's what Satan wants to do. He wants to take that light in you and it out. Only he doesn't it out. He goes up to your life and he's like, and then sometimes it's like, and then he's like, and you're like, that's more than a little it out. How many of you guys had a day like that recently? Or a week like that? Or a month like that? Or a year like that? Or a life like that? That's because that's what the devil's trying to do. He's trying to it out. Only he doesn't protect the light. Once that light shines, it consumes you if you let it. Shines through you if you let it. Changes the world around you if you let it. Because we live in a world of darkness and pain and hurt and destruction and hopelessness. And that light that you bring is hope joy and life and love. It's everything that the world is missing. Sometimes in your life, you just need to go home a different way. What does that mean? Well, you ever been on a path and thought to yourself, I probably shouldn't be on this path? You ever been on a road and thought to yourself, I probably shouldn't be on this road? You ever been with some people and thought to yourself, probably shouldn't be with these people? You ever been at a party and thought to yourself, probably shouldn't be at this party? You ever been on a computer and thought to yourself, probably shouldn't be looking at this website? You ever been on your phone and thought to yourself, probably shouldn't be sending this picture? You ever been anywhere and thought to yourself, I probably should be going a different way at this moment? So here's the thing. God made you this incredible being, this incredible creature that has control over yourself. Do you have control over the person next to you? No. What about the one in front of you? No. What about the one behind you? No. What about your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt, anybody else? Who do you have control over? So whose path do you get to guide? Whose? Say mine. Not me, like mine. Say mine. Just like those seagulls on Finding Nemo. Say mine, 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 mine. That's right. My path is the one that I get to choose to guide. My path is the one that I get to choose to lead. My path is the one that I get to choose to change. And when I find myself on the wrong path, the wrong road, the wrong way, the wrong destination, the wrong place, the wrong time, the wrong people, the wrong circumstances, I can take a different way home. I can divert my route, divert my path. I can go home a different way, just like those wise men did. They sought the light. They followed the light. They protected the light. And once they had experienced that light had ignited within them, they realized the path that they had been on. They went a different way home. The question is this. Which way home do you need to go for Christmas? You remember that old song? Anybody ever heard that old song? I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe so I can kiss you under it. Presents on the tree. I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Sometimes we got to go home a different way. We close your eyes with me. I'm going to ask Christian, would you mind coming up and jumping on the piano? At this point in your life, what path are you on? What way have you found yourself down? Are you going places and doing things, making choices that you're proud of? That you would gladly share with not only anyone else in this room, but anyone else that you know? Are you looking at things on the internet that you would have no problem with anyone else discovering? Are you having conversations and discussions and even text threads and things of that nature that you would have no problem with your mom looking at? Here's the issue. Inside, we're broken, we're hurt, we're full of darkness. But darkness is not the opposite of light. It's simply the absence of it. And sometimes we allow that darkness to take over. I'll be the first to admit it. I have done it, and I still do it from time to time. I allow thoughts to creep in, emotions and frustrations, anger. And I have to remind myself that just the tiniest little bit of light pushes all the darkness away. And at that moment, maybe I need to just change the road I'm on and go home a different way. If you're here tonight and you would say, I want to go home a different way. I'm tired of going to the destination I've gone. I'm tired of going to this place where I find hurt and pain and destruction and shame and grief and sorrow and brokenness. I'm tired of this road. I'm tired of this path. I'm tired of this. I want to go home a different way. Nobody looking around. Nobody worried about anybody else. Nobody even concerned what is happening in this room except for the idea of the light of the world that wants to shine in your heart. You're done with the darkness. You want to walk in the light. And you know it's time to go home a different way. Will you just throw your hand up in the air? And go ahead and put it back down. I'm going to ask everybody in this place. Will you just say this prayer with me? Jesus, I am full of darkness. Darkness of my own choosing. Because of the paths that I have walked, the places that I've gone, the things that I have seen, things that I have done, and things that have been done to me. But Jesus, I am not trapped in darkness because you are the light. And I know that just the smallest light pushes all darkness away. So just give me that little bit of your light tonight. Help me to hold on to that light, to seek it, to follow it, to protect it inside of me. And to just go home a different way. Help me to choose a different path today. I need you, Jesus. Thank you for the story of Christmas. The story of how you broke time in half just for me. The story of how you shined light in the darkness just for me. Now help me to walk in the light and never go back to the darkness again. To choose that different path just for you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Everybody said.